What's shaking, YouTubeites? Welcome to Lords of the Long Box presents the CovrPrice the CovrPrice comic book shakers of the week for November 4th already. No Shave November, boys and girls. You say hello to Uncle Tivo's creepy mustache. It's going to be here for the whole month of November. So we'll see which different directions I go. Jack and I were having a discussion about this. Sometimes if you trim it too much, you end up in bad places and you just got to shave it all off and start over. But while you guys are congregating in the live chat, you know what? Let's get some music for you guys. Shall we say the word? Let's just say the word. You know why? Because it doesn't give me a copyright string and it's dope. So while you guys are congregating, kick back, relax, put on your headgear. We'll give you a trip through the atmosphere. That's how you get a party started. JB, say what's good to the people.
How you doing, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Shaker Show here on the Lords of the Long Box Thursday night. If you have not already, come on, hit that thumbs up. You know you want to. If you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, man. Hit the bell so you don't miss the next show. Welcome. We're going to have a great one tonight. Jack, tell us what's up.
Listen to JB. Go ahead, Jack.
Yes. So it's been a long week of deal making, ready to see what's shaking. Excited for another hot list this week. We got some interesting ones starting right at the top. So,
Matt sent me the list. He's joking. He said he got a good chance of getting at least 2 for 3. The rest of it, I really don't know, but I would say at least 3. This show is sponsored by the McRib. Not getting any compensation for it. Just telling you I love McRibs. Make sure you go out and get a McRib while you can for limited time offer. Also, it's important, boys and girls. Today, this is November. This marks Men's Health Awareness Month. If you're at 40 age or over, please go get your prostate check. Go get your colonoscopy check. You never know, man. Just take care of yourselves. And November is why we all grow our facial hair. It can be a mustache, a goatee, a beard, whatever. But do it for No Shave November. Men, take care of yourself. Women, make sure your men take care of themselves as well. So that's your little healthy tip for the day. This show is sponsored by our friends at CovrPrice.com for price, collections, and trends. For $6.99 a month, you can get all that You know what that is? Pretty much a price of McRib. You know, I bought a McRib value a meal, and it was like $9. Like, what the hell did I just pay for? I mean, the sandwich itself was only $4.20, but I got fries and a drink, and it was like $9. I'm like, all right, whatever, man. Anyway, show's also sponsored by our friends at KRScomics.com. Go to KRScomics.com. Use discount code LOTLB to get 15% off any KRS Comics exclusives. Also, from their pull box, you automatically get a 25% off. All members get 25% off on new comics. So if you have new comics for FOC, you can get them there. They don't have any exclusives dropping tomorrow, but this is almost sold out. I would highly suggest if you interested in getting it, go to KRS Comics right now. I do believe there's a couple of signed COA cover A's available and unsigned cover A's available. This is part of the whole Pokemon world of trading cards. So once again, it's like sneakerheads coming into the comic world. Now it's going to be Pokemon things coming to. I think this is a Venomillion. So this is definitely kind of Pokemon related. Go check out our friends at KRScomics.com. They still got a couple of books left, so get it before it totally sells out. There's already most sets are sold out. But once again, this is the CovrPrice Weekly Comic Book Shakers, where this list comes from our friends at CovrPrice, focusing on new sales or the most interesting sales found in their exclusive daily Shakers list. This changes several times every day to make sure you check it out every day to review some of the hottest trending books on the market. And to say there are some interesting books on this list would be an understatement. Starting off with the first one on the list. What is it, JB?
All right, here we go. Let's get this show started with number one on the list, The Ambiguously Gay Duo Comics. Originally published in 2002 from J.J. Settlemeyer Productions. Now, J.J. Settlemeyer Productions is an innovative design and animation studio that started in 1990. They handle numerous ad campaigns and animated series that directly influence pop culture. Some of those highlights for us include animating the first season of Beavis and Butthead and Saturday Night Live's Saturday TV Funhouse. Remember that one? With Robert Smigel. Now, Funhouse provided a particularly memorable fan favorite series called The Ambiguously Gay Duo. Now, featuring a late 70s, 80s animation style around two superheroes called Ace and Gary. Well, in December of 1999, J.J. Settlemeyer Productions and Robert Smigel produced a 4-page comic book story to be printed in that month's Playboy. Now, years later, in 2002, they reprinted the story along with other samples of the company's work into this 32-page comic book with cover art provided by the great Alex Ross. Now, 3 rare copies came to the market this week and all sold, ranging from $69 to $72 per copy. VF copies, they said. Now, while this isn't a shocking price, it's a book that has a very low awareness, and due to its cultural connection and being hard to find Ross cover, will most likely increase in value. Well, we reached out to J&J directly and confirmed that they printed 2 print runs of 2,000 copies each, for 4,000 in total. And per J&J, they were never sold. They were given away at speaking gigs, screenings, and sent as promotional swag. So how do 4,000 copies disappear? Well, time is a big factor. It's been almost 20 years since this was released. These also landed in the hands of non-comic collectors who most likely eventually threw them away or are simply sitting somewhere in their homes. The good news is these are out there somewhere. And man, we want one now as well. Happy hunting to y'all. What do you think of that?
Shout out to the first guy who bought it for $69.
Exactly. Right? I was just going to say that, right? He purposely knew he was going to buy it for $69. Yep. And to think that Alex Ross did an ambiguously gay duo character, for all of you kids that don't remember SNL used to be absolutely great. It was must-see TV. You know, every Saturday night. I still watch it now. You know what I mean? Whenever there's a good host on, you could always guarantee. But man, those and if you remember the cartoons, they did it, and the villains would always be in shock, like, you guys don't realize what you guys are doing. They'd be like, no, like one would be flying and the other one would be riding on top of him. It was absolutely hilarious, man. And it was Robert Smigel did quite a few other animated ones for SNL too at the time. So yeah, The Ambiguously Gay Duo, issue number 1. Alex Ross Limited
Crazy.
to $4,000. Never really got on the market because there's no really cover price on it. 12 cent is just
No,
part
it's
of
a
the cover.
promotional. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
a
it was
promotional
promotional.
item, so they just giving them away.
Yeah. There you go. Our friends at CovrPrice. Robert Smigel wrote the little paragraph below that image on the cover art too. Ah, look at that. Thanks for joining us, CovrPrice. But yeah, if you have this on your 2021 bingo card, you are well way ahead of the game and you're going to win. Maybe not. All right. Here's your chance to get on the board, boys and girls, because I even have this one.
Yeah, this is definitely a popular speculator book for sure. We're talking about Amazing Spider-Man 654, the second print from Marvel in 2011. And we all remember Flash Thompson, the guy who bullied Peter Parker early on in the Amazing Spider-Man series and on the big screen. It's hard to imagine that guy getting his act together, let alone turning into a hero. Yet Flash Thompson does just that. After a distinguished military career, he ultimately loses his legs while in service. But that's not where his story ends. Flash ends up bonding with a Venom symbiote to become Agent Venom, a cool plot twist that starts in Amazing Spider-Man 654. ASM 654 is around a $250 book and a CGC 9.8, and sports over 400 universal copies on the CGC census, and a whopping 295 of those copies are CGC 9.8s. There's also a rare newsstand edition with only 19 universal copies on the CGC census. The last recorded CGC 9.8 sale was back in 2019 on that one. And the ASM 654 Collector Speculator Darling, however, is the second print, featuring some epic internal book art on the cover. A CGC 9.8 copy of the second print recently sold for an all-time high of $2,219, beating out the previous all-time high set back in April at just under $2K. That's pretty solid for a book with 46 universal CGC 9.8 copies on the census out of a total 220. A couple of notes of caution. There's a Mexican version of this book and the same interior art cover that is notably cheaper than the actual second print. Also, there is an ASM 654.1 that continues the Agent Venom storyline. But if you're looking for the true first appearance of Flash as Agent Venom, make sure to grab ASM 654. Yet we still recommend reading 654.1 as it's a cool story.
There's your bonus book for the day. If you want to throw this in, ASM 654.1. I like this version of kind of Venom, kind of like oversized, small head, really kind of muscular. We really don't see that in the comics where he's more of kind of like a, giant blob of stuff. But we'll see where they go. I mean, it would be cool to see Agent Venom, right? I mean, Sony has a ton of stuff that they can go in directions of Venom. Obviously, if you watched Venom, then you've seen the end credit scene, how looks like it's tying into. Can I spoil it now? I mean, we can talk about it. It's been out for a while now.
It feels safe to talk about.
Yeah,
by now.
Peter Parker does appear in the Tom Holland Spider-Man does appear in the end credit scene for Venom #2. So looks like we could be getting, like I always said, you can't have Venom without Spider-Man. So all right, second on the list is Amazing Spider-Man number 654, the Paulo Siqueira and Ronan de Oliveira second print variant from May. You like that? That's pretty good.
Well
right?
done, well done.
From 2011, $2,219 for a 9.8, and my copy's not a 9.8 because it's damn pesky black cover on here. Man, you can see every imperfection that comes out. So
that's a tough one to find in good shape when you find it raw in the wild.
All right, so we go from a possible hit to a damn nearly impossible book. I know if you get this one, you're really good.
No way in hell anybody got this one, man. All right, number 3 on the list. Ready? Captain America's Weird Tales, number 75. Originally published in 1950 from Marvel Comics. Now, by 1950, the U.S. was over the war and war-based content. It was an exhausting and challenging time for the world as a whole. So 5 years after the war ended, it was time to move on. Marvel recognized this and examined the post-war Captain America. Examined what a post-war Captain America looked like. Now, during this time, horror-based comics were immensely popular, and after 70 issues of Captain America, they decided to pivot to a more horror feel by changing the title on issue number 75 with Captain America's Weird Tales, featuring a very PCH cover of Red Skull. The title was carried over into this issue, number 75, which is straight up horror-based comic without Cap even appearing in it. However, by issue 76, Marvel jumped back into the old star-spangled Captain America, this time focusing on the events around the Red Scare and hunting down communist traitors. This book was even titled Captain America Commie Smasher. Oh, man. This turned out to be very successful for Marvel, and the series progressed. With that said, these two horror issues are very highly collectible and sold for a low-grade raw sale of $775, following September's higher-grade copy sale of $1,500. Nobody's got this. No way.
Yeah. Especially with the weird, looks like the bastard son of the Grinch and Sasquatch. I mean, I've never seen this before. Captain America's Weird Tales, and it's even a Marvel comic. So man, obviously they were trying to figure out what to do, but this is one of those things where if you see it, I mean, it's got to be something that you pick up because you're not. I mean, how often are you going to see Captain America's Weird Tales without really Captain America in it? But you have basically a green Sasquatch, which it looks like to me, or the Grinch went Sasquatch on it, so one of the two. But hey, girl with the red dress. So Captain America's Weird Tales, issue number 75 from Marvel, 1950, a raw low-grade copy, so for $775 on October 31st. I'm thinking they bought it because of Halloween comic covers. I'm just saying, man.
I still think, man, this is why I love this show, because if you saw that book in a back issue bin for $250 in low grade, you'd probably overlook it. And now everybody who's watching
now you're going to see and go, oh my God.
Right.
I know what this is.
That's the education of this show. That's what's so great about it.
Yeah. Who would have known that they had Captain America's Weird Tales, right? I mean, they didn't know what to do after. If you think about it, during World War II, right? War comics, left and right. And then there was like this weird span where you got this influx of horror comics as the war was over, right? And then to the comic code came along, and then I talk about this show all the time, the crazy pre-code horror covers that they were coming out with, because the war was over. And before that, if you think about all the golden age DC heroes, they were fighting Hitler and the Japanese and everything else on all these war covers. So why not have Captain America do Weird Tales with a green Sasquatch? That's what I'm saying. All right, so here's another chance to get on the board. We'll see, man. What do we got next?
Well, yeah, while JB's coming up with these wild and weird tales here, I'm sticking with the symbiotes. We're going with Carnage USA #1 from Humberto Ramos, the 1 in 100 incentive that Marvel dropped in 2011. And back in 2011, 1 in 100 variants were incredibly tough to find for even the hottest series. 2010 to 2012 were 3 of the lowest printed years for Marvel and have produced some of the most valuable variants due to their scarcity. This is especially true for this Carnage series, which most shops barely even ordered 10 copies of. 10 years later, it's truly cemented itself as a pricey book. This week, it had an all-time high raw sale of $450, beating out the last high sale of $449 back in January 2021. Plans for Carnage will not stop at Venom 2, so this should retain its value for the near future.
I do not own one of these. I missed out a couple of times.
If you think about now and print runs, I mean, hell, independent publishers will do 1 in 100s nowadays, right? But in 2011, you have to think of the market, and especially in comic book markets, was totally different. I mean, we're still reeling from the fallout from the 90s where there were huge print runs. So finding a 1 in 100 from 2011, pretty hard. I mean, not many big shops are doing that,
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing how much the market has changed just from a retail standpoint. You didn't have retail exclusives back then, which are largely where the print runs on these high ratio exclusives tend to go up when there's shops doing variants for that. Obviously, there was no Carnage USA exclusive variants, so you take that right out of the equation. And you didn't have as many e-commerce based businesses that you have now, which also are driving up. They're so pre-order based that they're driving up print runs. So the game was just so different as shops were ordering for their pull list back then. So that I think that's reflective in the way that like this series didn't go. And also, some of these characters have really elevated. Not that Carnage wasn't popular, but Carnage wasn't a get your own series type of character in 2011, and now that seems silly.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about now, there's Kara's Comics, all these Midtown Comics and all these other different online sites, for lack of a better term, not brick and mortar, shops that that are ordering, and now you have all these like exclusive variants that are strict. You can only buy online as opposed to shops.
Mhm.
But back in 2011, things were. I mean, I can remember. I think it was. I think I got back heavily collecting back in 2006, 2007. This was when The Walking Dead was really blowing up at the comic book shops. I remember that, and that was when, and shops were starting to come back to life, and now it's like crazy, right? If my shop, they you get certain print runs, and for a time there, Marvel was making them jump through hoops to get different types of
the qualifiers and all that. That was insane.
I don't know. I'm trying to remember if that was the case in 2011, where you had to literally order 100 of a book that had nothing to do with Carnage USA in order to get Carnage USA #1. But there was a time when they did that. They kind of pulled back from doing that because a lot of retailers were complaining about it. So and if you notice, DC really doesn't do not nearly as many racial variants that Marvel does, right? Because they typically have cover A, cover B. Sometimes you'll see a 1 in 10, 1 in 25. For special occasions like the Detective anniversary or Batman anniversary, you'll see like tons of different variants. But back in 2011, it was a totally different world, boys and girls. So Carnage USA issue #1, the Humberto Ramos 1 in 100 variant from 2011. All right.
Yeah,
Jack gets all the ones that people have chances of getting, and then the JB's is going with obscure. Although, you know what? We've been talking about anime and video game books here for a while, so maybe people have this one.
Maybe. All right. Next up, we've got Dragon Ball #1, originally published in 1998 from Viz Media. Now, like Pokemon, like Pokemon. How am I saying that right? Pokemon, like Pokemon. Viz Media produced these standard U.S. comics, of these massive brands and did quite well with them. As they've both grown up in popularity, both Pokemon and Dragon Ball #1 are quite valuable today. This first issue of Dragon Ball hit a new high sale of $200 this week. Now, there are only 6 copies of this book on the CGC census, the highest being a 9.6. Expect this book to go way up, especially if a 9.8 ever hits.
Yeah, this is, if you think about, I'm trying to think 1998. I was already a grown-ass person in 1998, but I don't remember the hype around Dragon Ball Z in 1998 that it probably in over the last decade or so that Dragon Ball Z has gotten, right? And we talk about Pokemon now is the huge thing. Speaking of which, hey, this is on Kara's Comics website, and this is a Pokemon or some type of Pokemon homage that there's a few copies left. If you want to get yours, use discount code LOTLB. This is Venom #2, the Venomillion, which is an homage to Pokemon, which I didn't even know, to be honest with you. I really had to like take a look at it, but that's anime, TV shows, movies, whatever. If there was a comic done before, just grab it, because just look at the market. That's what this show is not necessarily about. Hey, these are the most expensive book, but it gives you an idea of also what people are spending on the market. So
the market is moving east. That is a very real thing, and I think every single week we have seen one of these, whether it's Sailor Moon or it's One Punch Man in My Hero Academia.
Or even Nintendo comics too.
Exactly. Yeah. We are seeing this Eastern influence, and I'll even argue to the point of like even within Marvel with the new Agents of Atlas and the success of Shang-Chi. I think we are going to continue to see that Eastern influence kind of coming in waves. And manga sales right now are so huge. Like I would suggest to anybody who really wants an overview of what the market looks like, go look at what like Demon Slayer, that's just one manga title, what their sales are in comparison to the entire US comic market. It's a comparable number.
Yeah. I would say, Robert Kirkman's Firepower, I think you guys should be picking that book up because that checks off all the categories. It's a comic book. Robert Kirkman does it, and it's kind of an Eastern influence martial arts book. And Robert Kirkman has great relationships in Hollywood. I wouldn't be surprised to see Firepower being developed somehow, some way. It's also a cool read, man. Yeah, it's also a cool read. So Dragon Ball issue number 1. It wasn't even Dragon Ball Z yet. It was just Dragon Ball number 1 from Viz Media from 1998. This is like maybe the third time we had a Viz Media book on here, which is pretty fun, man. All right, we go from Dragon Ball to where the hell is that?
That's right. We're taking it back. We're looking at Exposed number 1 from DS Publishing from 1948. And we know we're past Halloween now, but that doesn't mean those pre-code horror comics are going away. Famously nicknamed the nagging cover, it's no wonder the Comics Code stepped in to censor such extreme subject matter. PCH books were not kind to women. Even death in this picture is pretty horrified by what's going on. This week, this highly sought-after book sold in a CGC 4.5 for a new record high sale of $1,575. There's an 8.5 up for auction on Heritage. So we are looking forward to seeing what that sells for. It is the highest graded copy that's ever come to market, and we expect it to land at around $15K.
This is a gnarly cover, man.
This is crazy.
Exposed true crime cases. The word bubbles under says, nag, I'll teach you to nag. Jim, don't, you're killing me. And I guess, once again, girl in a red dress. And like you said, the specter of death, and I would say, maybe Marvel saw that and said, hey, we want to do death. But death has always been kind of personified as that. But, man, that is a gnarly cover. So Exposed number 1 from DS Publishing from 1948. Yes, Seduction of the Innocent indeed. Boy, that is gnarly.
That's why you have a Comics Code. Look at that cover.
Yeah, that is when people don't understand it, and then especially the fact that comics were primarily purchased by children at the time. It's like, well, that's why that happened.
Yeah, imagine little Timmy coming home with this and his mom finding it. In the 1940s, she's probably like, "Oh my God!"
Little Timmy looks at mom and says, "Nag, mom."
Yeah. So you got to think 1948 was probably maybe 5 or 6 years before McCarthy. And then Congress really started getting involved in stuff and, talking about the seduction of innocent and then cannabis driving the youth insane and all those kind of things. It was a weird time back then. It was a truly weird time. All right. Here's another chance to get on the board. I remember I promised you 3 books, right? So we had this book, and I think lots of you got a good chance to break your offer with this one. What do we got?
I think so too. Next up, we've got Iron Man, issue number 282, originally published in 1992 from Marvel Comics. Now, War Machine was hinted at back in 2008's Iron Man number 1. After over a decade in the MCU, he's another character getting a recent surge in the market value. While War Machine had its highest sale ever in July of this year at $800 for a 9.8, this week's $700 sale supports that high sale. For over 11 years, you could have picked this up for well under $200 in a 9.8. It was highly undervalued until this past year. Though with Rhodey Rhodes taking the lead on Disney Plus's Armor Wars is most likely the key driver for this thing's increasing. I have this book.
Yeah, I definitely think it's definitely going to get another bump when they show the Armor Wars trailer. And I think also people have been snatching up that actual run called Armor Wars. Because people, they don't care if it has anything to do with the story. It's name recognition, and they just automatically jump to it. That's just how the collector market is. So if you come out with something called, Warlock, then people go and look for Warlock in the Infinity Watch books. And, it's just, they're trying to get ahead of the game. But this book has always been, kind of the thing, if you don't have the first appearance of Rhodey, then go get the first appearance of War Machine. Obviously, since it's a Disney show, I'm pretty sure that's why it wasn't called War Machine, right? It's a Disney Plus show, so it was changed to Armor Wars, which is the name of an actual storyline in the Iron Man comics. Where I believe in Armor Wars, it's like I think they hunt down like Stark Tech that's gone rogue, and that's why it's called Armor Wars. But be on the lookout for Armor Wars as well. That series,
and this is another one. I hate to be the guy who pees in the punch, but Enrique just mentioned it in the chat. He says 281 is the first via cameo. It's one of those ones where it's kind of a cameo in name only. It's a very strong appearance. 282 when it came out, that's when I remember from being a kid. Like that was the book. That was the book as soon as it came out. The cover was cool. The design of the character was cool. This is the height of Punisher being that badass. This was very, shoot 'em up Punisher-esque, and from a character like Iron Man, who honestly I don't think most kids cared about at the time. So this book has always been the book, but this is a complicated first appearance because this is a character who really shows up in 281. And then it's Tony Stark wearing that armor until like a issue, like a few issues down in the run. So it'll be interesting to see. 282 has always been that book. And I think it probably has a chance of always being that book because so many choices are made off iconic cover imaging. But this is one, if this character really gets popular, and this really takes off, if people start really looking into this one, I wonder if there isn't some other books that are grossly undervalued.
Oh yeah, especially with Armor Wars. It's not going to just be Rhodey in it. There's been talk about what's her name, the young Ironheart will debut in Armor Wars as well. So it's people always want to say cameo versus first appearance. For the longest time, it's whatever the market dictates, and then
absolutely.
Even somebody recently from Marvel came out. I think it was a comicbook.com article where it was like, somebody from Marvel who worked on the Hulk 180, 181 said, no, Hulk's true first appearance is Wolverine's first appearance is in Hulk 180. But the market decided long ago that Hulk 181 was the book to get. So, you can piss into the wind all you want, but the market is going to eventually dictate on what's being what. If you have both, good for you. But it's what the market dictates. You can get 281, 282, or you can get Rhodey's first appearance. Why not, man? Get them on, and you won't have FOMO. That's what I say. All right, so we go from Iron Man 282 from 1992 to another offer.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be another strikeout for some people because we're looking at the Lone Ranger Comics #1 poster insert variant from Lone Ranger Incorporated in 1939. And the Lone Ranger is one of comics' most successful series of all time. From the 40s to the 70s, it was a huge franchise. While the Dell 1948 comic series was the first series for the character, he appeared in this one-shot 9 years earlier. The first appearance of the Lone Ranger in comics is one tough book to find, and it is only sold via mail-in offer for an ice cream company. The name is unknown. And this poster insert version is even rarer, which included 2 inserts, a poster posted over the centerfold and a smaller one glued into the back cover. The poster version is the first sale we've seen for either copy, which sold for $2,850 for a CGC 7.0. Another fun fact, as noted by CGC, that this is also the first Western comic book devoted to a single character.
Interesting. See, I did not know that. You find out something every day. Think about it. 1939, man. And this was back in the day when people used to listen to radio shows, right? Hi-ho, silver away. Remember that whole thing? When I was a kid,
when I was a kid,
I used to love the Lone Ranger movies, man. And then Armie Hammer and Johnny Depp just killed it. Do you remember there was a Lone Ranger movie that came out in the 80s? Do you remember that? There was if you look it up, it came out in like 1983, 84. There was a Lone Ranger film, and it kind of did the mythos a little bit better. Like he was part of the Texas Rangers, the group of lawmen, and they all got slaughtered except for him. And then he ends up becoming the Lone Ranger, gets the mask and everything. And then I don't know why they can't redo a Lone Ranger movie, right? I think maybe
it's with that in mind that I sit and say, I'll tell you, TiVo, I think this is a underpriced book. When you look at some of the crazy prices that we see on this show on a weekly basis, from late prints to just convention variants, you look at a price like this from a book from 1939, the first appearance of an iconic character, a rare variant of that cover, and one that was only accessible through a mail-in. And then you think about the fact that, like, we're 3 guys on this panel who we see a lot of comics. This is not a cover I see at shows. This is not something I was familiar with. And you're absolutely right. I think this is a character and a property, because there's more than one important character, obviously, with Tonto on the cover. That has kind of like stood the test of time. It's been rebooted numerous times. And I think there's no reason why you couldn't have a new film or come with a new media with like an anime or some sort of animated feature. There's all kinds of things that could be done with this character.
Somebody said, I mean, for 2850, 1939 for 7.0, this to me is grossly undervalued to me. You know, to find it in that grade, and it's from 1939, and it's the first appearance of Lone Ranger, and enclose a poster insert. Good Lord, that is super rare. I mean, even that it came from an ice cream company. I mean, that's just the weirdest thing ever. I mean, go ask your parents about the Lone Ranger for all you kiddies who don't understand when they grew up on westerns and western cereals and all. When I say cereal, I'm not talking about with milk. Cereal meaning, you know, the episodic storytelling that they used to do on radio, and they used to do it before movies. You used to get these serials before you saw a motion picture, right? That they would do it. If you want to see something really interesting, look at the Batman black and white serials from I think the 30s or 40s. It was incredibly weird before its time, but you know it portrayed as kind of a dark Batman. But I think you can find some of the clips on YouTube. There was a Batman serial. Obviously, everybody knows the Superman serials before then. Superman got his own show, but Lone Ranger back in the day, that was like your closest thing to a superhero, in the Western books, man, and the cowboy books, I guess, the picture funnies. But anyway, Lone Ranger's comics #1 from Lone Ranger Inc. 1939, so for 28.50 and a 7.0. I think that's a great investment. All right, what do we got up next?
All right, before we get to the next one, man, shout out to Matt and everyone at CovrPrice for putting this list together. Just a fantastic job doing the research on these. Everybody who's joining us now, if you're enjoying us, make sure you hit that thumbs up. Let's get to the next one on the list. Millie the Model Comics.
Good Lord.
Originally published in 1945 from Marvel. Now, Millie the Model was a very popular comic series. It's also Marvel's, well, timely in the early days, longest running humor series of all time. This run had numerous spin-offs and also produced Marvel's very first annual issue in 1962. It's an important book to the history of comics as it was the creation of one of the first women in comics, Ruth Atkinson. Now, Ruth was a pioneer in an industry dominated by men. She wrote, penciled, and inked this first issue, working on the series until 1952 when she married and retired from comics. Now, in addition, this series also later featured the work of Dan DeCarlo of Archie legend, who gave Archie their signature look, inspired by Millie. Now, this first issue and appearance of Millie the Model are still severely undervalued, as seen by this week's new high raw sale of $835.
Millie the Model, man, go figure. Somebody in the
Model.
live chat said Stan Lee worked on this at one point, so I wouldn't doubt it was Marvel. Yep. I mean, Stan Lee was at one point. If you watch there's different shows or interviews with Stan Lee in a documentary where he's like he was tired of doing Millie the Model comics. He was tired of doing westerns and this and that, and he asked his wife, what should I do? And she goes, you should make a Fantastic Four book, and then boom. And that's, and then Amazing Spider-Man, and then it kind of started from that. But at that point, it was just like Marvel's in time. And it was like, hey, just make these cowboy books, just make these westerns, just make these, Millie the Model, these romance comics. And then Stan Lee, it's very famous. He asked his wife, his dear departed wife, Joan, I'm tired of doing this. What should I do? And then he came up with new ideas. So, and that's how it gets started somehow. But if you have Millie the Model comics #1 from 1945, $835, to me, that still sounds cheap. Normally the Shakers list is really like way priced, but we also show.
I agree. That's a cheap
this
one.
This is the interesting part of the list, right? We bring up interesting sales. It's not always about Hulk 181s and things like that. All right. Last book on the list, maybe got a chance. I don't know. Yeah, I'll take that back. Unless you're a hardcore fan. Yeah.
You might have the regular cover, but we're talking about Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time, The Eye of the World, #1. And we're looking at the sketch incentive variant that was a 1-in-10 ratio. And this was from Dynamite in January 1st, 2009. And based on Robert Jordan's immensely popular fantasy series of the same name, this comic book adaptation is getting significant market interest as we near Amazon's highly anticipated adaptation of the series, featuring actress Rosalind Pike. After a teaser trailer hit mid-October, the book saw a slight uptick. However, after the full trailer hit last week, it got collectors rushing to find the harder-to-find issues, like this 1-in-10 variant, which sold 2 copies this week, and one at $250 raw and another for $350 in near mint minus raw. This show looks epic and could gain a solid following, with the show releasing on November 19th, and the time to look for these is right now. There are several series before Dynamite by publisher Red Eagle and another one by Dabble Brothers, which was released 1 year before it was reprinted into this series by Dynamite. All of those series are highly valuable and super tough to find. There's plenty here to hunt for. Meanwhile, check out the full trailer.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna play a full trailer because I don't want to get my channel taken down. But
right,
I've been talking about this on not only this show, but also I was on Pressable Defects talking about. Look, anytime, the Wheel of Time, the Lord of the Rings, the Game of Thrones. Even we saw recently the spike in the Dune comics. All these, my pick has also been look for Indiana Raiders of the Lost Ark, the first appearance of Indiana Jones, or the further adventures of Indiana Jones that kind of fleshes out in between. Read the tea leaves. This is people are buying stuff that isn't typically, because Wheel of Time were novels before they were comics, right? If you think Lord of the Rings, novels before they were comics. Dune, novel before it was a comic. Game of Thrones, still waiting for the last book, to drop. So, and all those now it's at the point that this is at the tipping point where it's just like, hey, get them now. They're coming. Don't wait till after the fact. If you think they're doing Lord of the Rings is going to be a prequel. There's been different comics on it, but people don't care. As long as it says Lord of the Rings #1, they'll get it. Just like the Game of Thrones. The Game of Thrones is basically the Silmarillion or something along those lines. It's more of like when the Targaryens are not is it the Targaryens? Is when the Targaryens come into Westeros, right? They haven't really touched upon that on the show. So it's when is that the silver-haired people on Game of Thrones?
Yeah, the Targaryens when they show up with the dragons.
It's when the Targaryens come to Westeros, and it's when the Targaryen Civil War, where dragons fight dragons. Now, look for that comic adaptation, because Game of Thrones didn't have a huge following, but after the TV show, people that never read the book were just full-on giant Game of Thrones fans. So hopefully, we got new. Unfortunately, the show kind of jumped the shark, right? Because they had to continue doing series, and Kirk, what's his name? The guy who wrote it. He kind of helped them guide through it, but basically it was after season 5, right? It was basically after the stabbing of Jon Snow, where the books currently ended. So the showrunners were left to their own devices, and season 6 absolutely incredible. Parts of season 7, the finale left a little people kind of So I think bringing back a prequel series will get the Game of Thrones hype up. Wheel of Time is kind of in that same world. Doesn't that remind you of Doctor Doom too? Also, by the way,
George R.R. Martin. Thank you very much, Enrique.
Yeah, George R.R. Martin. But doesn't this cover kind of give you Doom vibes to it? The way his costume is, almost like he has an Iron Mask on too. So, all right, that's the Shakers list. But hang on, boys and girls, we're gonna see what's shaking today over on the CovrPrice website. It changes every single day, multiple times a day. So we'll see what's shaking today, boys and girls. Hang in there with us, and we do a little show and tell here. Look at that. Got it right down to a T.
Boom.
Look at that. No, boom, right to it. So this is, you got your weekly top 10. If you have a full membership, you all see the movers of the week. 23 units sold of this X-Men book. Infinity was still showing DC Vampires. But we're here to look at the Shakers list. See what the biggest single sales are for. Oh man, I got Eternals. Wow, 9.8 for 1723. Still think it's undervalued, but I'm seeing Eternals on Saturday. It's getting the lowest Rotten Tomato score so far, but for every comic person I've seen that watched the movie, they enjoyed it for what it was.
Yeah. I want to see the real score, the fan score. Screw the
yeah. I just had my first
Rotten Tomato score. I feel like as soon as the first wave came out and it wasn't great, then everyone's going to jump that bandwagon and just start shitting on that movie before it ever came out.
I mean, I just had my first friend who saw the movie text me, and all he said was, "Yo, Eternals is effing awesome."
There you go. That's all.
I mean, that's the friend reaction coming out of the theater.
Yeah, look at this awesome cover. Marvel Comics number 18. You got the Human Torch, Submariner, the Angel. Look at the Vision. Almost looks like a Martian Manhunter down there, right?
Nice.
This is issue number 18, 1941. Raw for 1,500. 9.0 for 8,500 back in 2020. This book should be getting some publicity lately. Tomb of Dracula issue number 1. If you haven't got it, you should get it. 9.0 recently sold for $12.60. The rumor is Ethan Hawke is going to be playing Dracula. We've on our long-term spec list, we said that they're going to be doing Dracula is going to be introduced in the MC pretty soon, and the latest batch of rumors is Ethan Hawke. It hasn't been announced what his character is. Most people thought it was going to be Bushmaster, but apparently he's going to be playing Dracula. The Blade getting some love too. I'm glad I got my Blade. I got a 9.0, but a 5.5, so over $12.95. Good Lord. Do you remember this book used to be like not nearly a $12.95 could have got you a much higher grade than a 5.5, man. Good old horror books. Here we go. Right up your alley, Jackie. And some Masters of the Universe number 1.
Absolutely.
Direct sales with the new series coming out. $711 for 9.8. This isn't why? Because that's right. He-Man appears in DC Comics Presents first. I just realized that, right?
Yeah. This is the first of like the solo Masters of the Universe titles.
Yeah. Nah, man, never seen him with the battle axe for it. That was pretty cool. Nice.
Can you slide down and show me the variants on that one, Tivo?
I think the variant is probably just the direct market. Yeah, Canadian. There's a Canadian price variant and a newsstand. So this is the direct market, which sold back in 1982. Though direct sales were
direct sales direct in the early 80s.
Exactly. Yeah, the newsstand were more abundant back then, but some people argue that newsstand were harder to get in a high grade. But just think about it. There weren't that many comic shops in 1982 compared to now, right? I mean, the 90s really kind of crescendoed with comic shops. So I remember at one point in the strip mall by my house, there was 2 comic shops, one on each end of the strip mall. It was kind of crazy. Look at this. Look, FF action on here. What is that? Creepy Worlds with the Fantastic Four, Prisoners of the Puppet Master. Wow. Issue number 38 from 1965. I have never seen this book before. That is pretty awesome. The Puppet Master, that's Alicia Master's father, I do believe. More Werewolf by Night. This is
right there,
4.
That's the
first appearance of the
Darkhold. Darkhold.
Yeah, the Darkhold rears its ugly head again. Of course, it first appeared in they talked about it in I think they talked about it in Doctor Strange, but obviously WandaVision really fleshed it out some. But $600 for 9.0. Wow, $1,100 for 9.8. This whole this Marvel Spotlight run, Werewolf by Night, it's all getting hot. All of the Marvel Spotlight books are getting hot. Got to talk J. Scott Campbell, right? Look at that. J. Scott Campbell, Superior Spider-Man number 20, $550 for 9.8.
The 1 in 50.
I never really noticed that before. It's the Spider-Man is a ball of yarn. I just realized that because I've seen this cover before, and I just realized she's sitting on a Spider-Man ball of yarn. That's pretty cool, man. Submariner has been in the news recently, but we got to talk about space adventures.
What is that?
With this snowman with lasers coming out of his eyes? What the hell? Our plan to conquer Earth cannot fail. We're invulnerable. This is Strange Adventures number 79 from 1957. $500. Look at that, man. Just featuring invaders from the ice world. But so apparently the ice world, they all look like Frosty the Snowman.
They look like Frosty the Snowman. They got corncob pipes.
That is so awesome, man. Because, you have to have not only the hat, the corncob pipe. Oh, man. But imagine with laser eyes coming at you. Usual.
Repair Tech Tony says maybe that's a British reprint of that Fantastic Four, maybe.
Number 6.
No, remember you were saying that cover that you had never seen before? It was a Fantastic Four. Maybe that's a British reprint.
Yeah, because there are some
right, creepy. Yeah.
Yeah, you see. No, but it could be. I mean, there was some. If you look at my back wall, when I go off screen.
How much is that thing? Is it a 1 pence? Is that the one?
Yeah, I don't know what that is actually. Kind of that
What is that?
one minus. I don't know what it is. One apostrophe, but I have some comics behind me on a poster, and I'll show you once we're done with this. That is features. It's called Avengers featuring Doctor Strange, and it was a UK only publication that basically reprinted an Avengers story and a Doctor Strange story inside the book. Because I remember somebody was talking about they bought a UK variant for FF48, and I was like, dude, that is super rare. Because you know what I mean? I mean, most people, poo-poo on Pence variants, but dude, have you ever seen a Fantastic Four 48 Pence variant? I've never seen one in my life. I said that's got to be worth something. But always got to do EC horror on there. I love this. Tales from the Crypt featuring the Crypt Keeper, the Vault Keeper, and the Old Witch. Look at that gnarly cover. That is awesome. EC. Tales from the Crypt number 33, $400. They are definitely showing this off for Halloween comic covers. Maybe next year since they just bought it. Blue Beetle. I want to see here on the too much. Look at that. This is from Fox Comics. Blue Beetle number 50. That is dope. I dig it. Let me show you this other one because I have 2 copies of this. It says I only have one, but this is the first appearance of Shumagarath, which people are speculating on. I have this entire Marvel Premiere run, but $379 for 7.0. These, you know what? This Marvel Premiere run with Doctor Strange, very hard to find in high grade. I will eventually get all 14 of mine graded. I think Doctor Strange runs from 1 through 14, something along those. Yeah, that's right, because Marvel Premiere number 15 is the first Iron Fist. There we go. Just for you. Once again, Love Dairy products. Excuse me, Love Diary. The dyslexia in me keeps on thinking it's like they love dairy products. I'm like, that's so weird. But Love Dairy issue number 31, $382 for a raw comic. Oh man, love this. Come on now. Here's some. This is some nostalgia for you. Radioactive Man. $340 for 9.8. I can remember this being higher before. Obviously with Simpsons nostalgia and everything. Good to see Thor on here. You know what? It's weird that Star Trek nearly doesn't get as much love as Star Wars as far as comic books are concerned. But yeah, Gold Key used to have a Star Trek series. First appearance of Star Trek, $263 for Raw. Let me see what the highs. Whoa, okay, I'm wrong then. Yeah, 9.6 sold for $20,000 back in 2019. So look at that. Don't see Star Trek really doesn't get much. Star Trek really doesn't get a lot of animated love, nor does it get a lot of comic book love. Although I noticed they're just doing a new animated Star Trek series, like more for kids, because let's face it, Star Trek was pretty much kind of sci-fi for adults when it came out as a TV series. So it never really dawned on me it was for kids.
Creatures on the loose. Get the creatures on the loose.
Okay. That's dope. Creatures on the Loose featuring Man-Wolf, Kraven the Hunter. $295 for 9.6. That's just a cool ass cover, man.
Yeah.
Love these anthologies. Darth Maul, this is dope. Star Wars Darth Maul issue number 2, first appearance of Cad Bane's. People still think Cad Bane is coming. So if you haven't seen it, go check out the Boba Fett series that the Book of Boba Fett, the trailer just dropped. Speaking of Star Wars, there's been a renaissance of Star Wars, I would say, since the pandemic, especially with The Mandalorian. I think really kind of kicked collecting the high gear, especially when Ahsoka Tano showed up and then dropped Thrawn's name. People realized that, there's first appearances of those characters in the comic books. So this one is just a cool cover. I don't think this is the first appearance. This is the origin of Asajj Ventress. Dope cover. I wonder who did this cover. That is really cool, man. All right, we'll just go and look at a couple of more here. That's kind of sexy. Let's take a look at this one. Rags, issue number 1 from Onyx, Antarctic Press. Some perv spent $175 from a raw copy. But apparently this is the only one that has nudity. But now you know why. But there you go, boys and girls. That is the Shakers for the week. If you see that Doctor Strange book right there? Right there? Mm-hmm. That is a UK version of the Avengers. So it actually says it's a 7-pence variant, Avengers featuring Doctor Strange. I had my buddy of mine, KP Henderson, blew this up and made giant posters of it. But that is let me see, what issue is it? I'm blind as hell. Number 66. And that's only was sold in the UK. And basically, it reprinted Avenger story and Doctor Strange story, but it's something that you can only find. That's why there's some rare UK books, and basically, they didn't sell a lot of issues, but a lot of times they reprinted issues or took collected editions, what we would call collected editions now, where there would be multiple stories in the UK. But I've been trying to find this book for a while now, and every time I see it on eBay, it's for a pretty high price, but they're hard as hell to find. But there you go. We just took up an hour of your time. Sorry you can't get your hour back, but JB, any last words?
Yes, come check out my channel. I'm back full time to YouTube doing a podcast 5 days a week. I'm recording it on YouTube. So stop by the chat, get your comment up on the board, or listen to me on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcast, or Apple Podcast. Thanks for having me on.
That's right. Jack, any last words?
Yes. Everybody in Charlotte, North Carolina, who's heading to the Heroes Mini Con, be sure to hit me up, check me out. I will be there Saturday and Sunday, both days. Look forward to meeting some people from the community.
What booth are you going to be? Are you going to be whatnot there, or?
I'm gonna be wandering. I'll be everywhere. I'll have the whatnot mask on though, so you'll see the W right on my face.
There you go. So
and shout out to the chat tonight.
Shout out to Minicon. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's this year. It's called the giant sized mini con. Usually every year they'll do Heroes Con in the summer, and then they'll do a mini con in the winter. This year with no Heroes Con, they kind of combine the two, and it's a kind of like a smaller presence Heroes Con, but it's still at the Charlotte Convention Center. It's 80,000 square feet, so it's going to be
That's what we have in SoCal. We have the Long Beach Comic Con, and then they have a Long Beach Light, which is a smaller show, which is basically just like comic booths, and it's great. It's like a 2-day show. You go there, and then the regular huge Long Beach Comic Con, which man, it hasn't been around for a long time, but I used to love going to Long Beach Comic Con. You could find mostly just comic book dealers. You know, it's not like San Diego where it's like you have to really search to find comic books. You know, WonderCon is still big and you can find a lot of vendors, but Long Beach Comic Con for the longest time, that was my go-to to get, because I know a lot of the local vendors that head out there. You know, if you go to California, up and down Northern and Southern California, it's the same vendors at every show. You know, you can almost.
I think it's like that everywhere. Everywhere you get in your area, you see those same vendors.
Yeah. All right, boys and girls, for AKA Mr. Bolo and JB from Discovery Bay Comics, this is TiVo, and telling you to keep digging them in long boxes, and peace out. We'll see you guys when we see you guys, maybe Sunday, possibly Tuesday, but have a great one, guys. Peace out.
Now let's do this. Rewind, select, and come again. Pull up that from the top to the very last. Jump.
Who are you to make their lives bitter in hard bondage? In this you shall know that the Lord is faithful. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, do it! We're here! We're back! Word up! Can't do a job! You can't get fresher than this!
In the great hall of the Justice League, there are assembled the world's 5 greatest heroes. Their mission, to fight injustice, to right that which is wrong, and to serve all mankind.
When it comes, I won't even notice. Oh, how so? I'll be too busy looking good.
You can't understand.